Hello YouTube, this is my second review. My first review was a slideshow. This is going to be my video review. I want to cover some of the technical aspects of the motor, specifically the fit in my RC18 T2 and some of the modifications that I had to do or considerations that I had to mount it properly in the car. This is the Toro Micro combo set. Came with the ESC and the motor as well. $29. Pretty good buy so far. The measurements that I want to start off with are the diameter of the outermost screw holes. These are the guys you're going to want to use for your stock motor mount. These guys have a diameter of 15.5 millimeters. The stock motor mount has a slightly larger diameter of about 16.5 millimeters. That's a problem, so you have to use the slotted holes, which will allow the motor to fit onto the motor mount. Now the slotted holes are going to fit like so, whereas the circle holes are they're just not going to fit. There's no way I can get it in there without doing a modification to the motor mount. Another one of the considerations was the shaft. From the factory, you're going to run approximately 2 millimeter diameter shaft, but it's smooth. There's no flat edge on it. So I took a Dremel tool and I ground down one side of it to give me something to bite on. And I took about 1/4 millimeter off. You can see there it's about 1.79 millimeters now. So that allows the little grub screw to grab a hold of it there. So probably not necessary, but just wanted to make sure that that I was covered. So some more measurements. The can, I know some of these measurements you can find on the website, but just to give you a better idea, the can is 20 millimeter diameter. It is slightly wider. It has a little bit of ribbing on it, I'm assuming for cooling purposes. The length of the can is 31.3 millimeters. It has the standard 3 connectors for brushless motors. They're all gold plated. These guys are about 3 1/4. They're probably 3.5 millimeter connectors. They have a little bit of a bulge on them that a lot of banana connectors have. That's pretty much it for the motor. That's pretty much it for the motor. It runs a little bit cooler than the stock motor did, but not by much. However, that could be related to the tension that the RC18-2 has in its drivetrain. I've got the upgraded front diff in here and I've loosened it up as much as I can. The belt's broken in, but it's not anything like the RC18T, the shaft-driven version. This has a lot more drag in it, it seems like. So the motor does still get hot, just not quite as hot as the stock motor did. So I guess I can talk a little bit about the ESC, the speed control. I did put my own connectors on this guy here. They are the Dean's connectors. It also has the standard 3 connectors for the brushless motor. They're also gold plated. It's a very snug fit. I pulled it off here and they were still completely clean. No dirt got in there whatsoever. Here's the capacitor. I spoke a little bit about it in my slideshow review. This guy was tapping, making a lot of noise, flopping around in the body of the car, but it has since laid down pretty consistently. I don't really hear tapping or banging around in there much anymore. So that's pretty much it for the physical aspects of it. The speed control does not get hot. It barely even gets warm. It's cool, not cool to the touch, but it's lukewarm after driving it for maybe 20 minutes or so. It's pretty easy to program. One of the things to consider, like I mentioned in my slideshow review, was that when you are going through the programming features on your transmitter, it will save your settings when you get to the end but then when you go to review those settings, if you were to start the process over again, it reports that everything is set to a 1. That's not the case. It'll keep your settings. It still does all the same functions that you had programmed, but for whatever reason it does not tell you which settings those are. It just says everything's set to 1, which is not the case. But other than that, I don't really have any complaints about it. It fits in the same exact position that the stock speed control did. It does need to be lifted up, raised up a tiny bit, because the PCB where the wires are soldered to was rubbing on the body, or on the frame. So I just doubled the double-sided tape to raise it up about 1 millimeter, and now it fits in there just fine. So this pretty much sums it up for my video review. I'm going to put this guy back together, and I will take it outside and show you what it looks like with the brushless motor running. Thanks.